Back, ladies and gentlemen, this is Chuck Lara, and today we're going to talk about something really cool and interesting called the keying process, or the green screen process, or the blue screen process. I mean, you can call it any of that, but the thing is that the keying process is just the action of removing a range of color. All right, so it could be green, it could be blue, it could be red, it could be white, it could be gray. It doesn't really matter. What we want is to remove a portion of color or a range of color, and we want to replace it with something else if that's necessary, right? So inside Nuke, we have a lot of different tools that allow us to do that. And obviously, we could use different methods of creating green sections or blue sections, as we have different applications and different tools. So like I said, we could use a green screen, we could use a blue screen, we could use a red screen, or we could just remove something with the color inside our footage. So if I want, I could just remove the grass of this based on the colors that I have in here, or I could remove this part of the street, the yellow area here, the sidewalk, or whatever. You know, you can use, the action is just to remove something based on colors. So that's basically what we want to do. Now inside Nuke, we have a lot of different tools that allow us to do that and something else. In this course, we talk about the tools is like a manual, right? And I will say that because I mean we deal with what the tools are and how we can manipulate them. And then we have the other course where we talk about compositing, where we actually put our hands into these tools and we start dealing with real case scenarios. So, but for now, let's just try to see how these tools work, and that way we will have a better understanding of what to do once we get a real case when we need to deal with that. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to talk about this one called difference, and this node called difference, or this tool, the name is difference because it will look at two different images and it will try to find the difference between the two of them and give us back the result of that. And for example here, I have this background and you can see it, but if I press here, you're going to be able to see it. So I have this guy in here and I have the other one right here. So one contains a sphere and the other one is just the same area but empty, right? Now imagine you have this kind of a scenario where you're filming, your actor is here talking or fighting or whatever he wants to do, and all of a sudden you are looking at your footage and you see somebody walking right beside it, or something like a microphone or something that you don't want in your footage, right? But you're dealing with animation, well, with a footage that is moving. So the problem here is that you don't want to be probably doing a lot of rotoscoping. I really don't like to do rotoscoping. That's something that I know how to do it and I deal with it a long time ago. And then when I need to do it, well, I will do it. But if I can avoid it, yes, I avoid doing rotoscoping. I don't like it, and it's just time consuming, and I don't like it. All right, so I rather use some other methods instead of that's like my last option. All right, so well, let's say that we want to get rid of this sphere and or some other object. So we can use this difference in order to find the object that is in there that we don't want. So if there's a guy walking here and we have a clean plate, all right, we have this and that guy is not there, so Nuke is going to find a difference and it's going to say, okay, there's some pixels are moving in there and I don't want them there. So that's kind of the thing that we are going to be building. Now before we do that, I want to take another example here, and we will go back to this one so that you can get a better understanding of what is going to happen, because here we have only these two colors, I mean black, or black and white and green, and that way we don't deal with a lot of information. We will use this just at the end to see the result, the final result of this situation. So I have this animated teapot, and this guy is just walking in front of a green screen, or on top of a green screen, or it's on top of a green screen. So we want to remove probably the green, and we could use the difference alpha, this difference tool, in order to do the same thing. we have just this background, and I can see that this guy is there and it's moving, and I can say, you know what, I don't want this guy in there, or you know what, I want to just isolate this guy and do something with it. I want to create a mask, or you know, whatever you want to do. So that's something that this node is going to do for you. So it will recognize the difference and it will give us a mask as a result, and then we can deal with that the way we want. So we can get rid of it, or we can, you know, use it to just isolate that guy and put it in front of another background. It's up to you. Well, first of all, we need to understand that we can deal with different colors, different type of green screens or blue screens or red screens, right? So just like I said, we can deal with any kind of color, and we have different channels. Remember, here we can go and see the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, or the alpha channel. Now, before you jump into dealing with information like that, where you need to remove or do something with those areas, or you're dealing with color, something that I recommend you to do is just go and try to see the information that you have in your channel. So for example, here I can see the red, and remember, black is transparency. That means that there's no color information in there, and then white means that there's a lot of that specific color in there. So in this case, you can see that there's not too much red information in here, and that's why we use the green screen. The green screen doesn't have a lot of reds, and now when we are dealing with humans, you know, the skin has a lot of red. I mean, if you take a look at your hand, or you know, we have a lot of red. We don't have a lot of green or blue in our body. So that's why the green screen is the most common nowadays. Now they used to use a lot of blue screens a long time ago, and because of the type of film that we were using, and with film they said that the actual blue gets better in there. But when dealing with digital video, we get a lot more noise in the blue channel. So that's why we use the green screen instead of the blue screen. Now, there's some other things to keep in mind. They said that if you're using your screen for, you know, a night scene, then the blue could give you better results. If you're using your screen for daytime, well, the green is the best. But you know, it's always the best thing is just to check what do you have, what is the information that you're getting. And nowadays we have a lot of resolution where, you know, sometimes it doesn't really matter if it's green or black or green. If you have a flat color in there, you want to get rid of it, it's just like easy to remove. So, but still, you need to take, you know, you need to come and check what do you have in here. So in this case, I'm going to go here, and you saw the red. Now let's take a look at the green. The green channel looks pretty clean, and that's what I like about the green screen. Now this image is just 885 by 500, so it's not a big, huge image, and I am just using that as you know, as an example, so that we can deal with you know, some of the information and some of the issues that we will find when we don't have enough resolution. So as you can see, if I get closer to my teapot, there's some sort of noise around the teapot. But you can see that the green is kind of clean. I don't have a lot of noise going on in here. Now I'm going to jump into the blue channel, and now you can see that when I use the blue channel, there's a lot of noise around my object, and that's the kind of thing that I was trying to say. And now another thing to keep in mind is that this type of footage, it's coming from a render that I created inside Cinema 4D, and it's another 3D application that you can use for creating animations and renders like that. But if you're using just, you know, live footage, you could get different results depending on the camera, depending on the illumination, how you set up your lights, all that. And if you're working for, you know, if they give you the footage, well, then there's not too much to, you know, all you have to do is just check and try to see that information. But if you are on set, if you are on location, always try to take samples of everything. Try to see where the lights are placed. Try to see, you know, measurements. Try to measure things, sizes, references, perspective. All that is kind of nice information. Now, what happens here is that imagine that I was on set, and well, what I will do here is just for these type of situations, I will take a shot of the actual set without anything. And I always take a lot of pictures and try to get as much information as I can. Now, I don't do it all the time, but I have somebody that is helping me, and they are, taking pictures. They already know, they have to measure everything. We use cell phones. We have use some applications on our phones that allow us to do this quick and efficiently with pictures and measurements at the same time. And that way we can come to the studio and start downloading all that data and start building on top of that. So I mean, the more information you can get from the set, the better the results you're going to get for everything. All right. So now let's say that we have our picture. This is the picture of our empty background, and then we have the actor. So we have the two different things. Now the difference is going to look for the difference between these two different images, and obviously they are the same, but just this guy is different. So that's what this tool is it's going to help me to find. So it's really simple to use. All I have to do is just double click on it, and I'm going to go here to my difference, which is this region here. I'm going to close everything else. Let's open just this one, and you can see I have a gain input, and if I crank this value to, let's say, 100, nothing happens. If I go back to 1, nothing happens. Why is that? Well, because this difference, as you can see here, it says alpha, and we are dealing with alpha channel here. So what I need to do is jump into my viewer here and press the letter A in order to call my alpha channel. And remember, you can also come and bring it from here. Now the alpha channel is transparency, and right away with this value of 1, you can see that I am starting to get some sort of information here. So if I get that back to 0, so everything is transparent. I mean, I have nothing in here, and I could just get another image and put it on top of this with a merge, and I will get nothing. So because there's no information here. Now when I start cranking the gain up, you can see that I am getting more and more information. That means that this image is now being available. I am starting to see this teapot and the shadow. Now it's only the difference what I am getting. Okay, that's why I don't get anything else, and the algorithm is trying to find, okay, this doesn't match in both of the pictures, so I will get I will show you this pixel, and that's how it works. Now I can go here and set that to 10, for example, and I will get a brighter kind of image. And now you can see here the teapot actually is now all white. That means that it's completely opaque. And if you see the legs of this guy, that means that the legs of this guy are not completely opaque. They are transparent still. So if you don't believe me, well, let's go and try to see what's going on in here. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to set it up as my background, but I need a merge node. So before I do that, I will call a merge, and we will get this guy as my foreground and this guy as my background, and you gotta be there. And now you can see that everything goes black, but this little guy here is in this corner, and that's because this image is too big. So I'm going to take care of that by using a reformat. Let's call a reformat node. We're going to place it in here, and now this reformat, it's going to make sure that the image, gets the same size. So that's nice. Now I'm going to go back here, and from my alpha, I'm going to go back to my RGB values, and now you can see that my legs are transparent. Well, the legs of this teapot are transparent, and that's what I was talking about. So how can I make this a lot more opaque? Well, remember, difference has this value of gain, so I'm going to increase this value to 100, for example. Now you can see that I'm getting now I'm getting rid of the transparency on those areas, but I still have some green issues in here. Now you have an option here called the offset, and now the offset, as you can see here, is kind of helping me with removing the shadow of this guy. And right here you can see that I can almost get rid of it. You can keep increasing this value. I can go, for example, to 100. It doesn't have a limit. Like, well, I mean, for values like that, you can go even higher. And you can see how I can start dealing with these two parameters like that, and trying to get rid of the actual shadow, but keeping the rest of the object. So that's what I can do with the offset. Now, the thing here is that we are still getting a lot of green, and that happens because, remember, we have something called operations when dealing with images. For example, here with the merge, we're using an operation called over. So we are placing this operation over the other image, and you can kind of see the actual explanation of every single one of these operations in here, what channel is on top of what channel, and that's what we are doing here. So I could go and say, you know what, I want to use this as a mask, and now you can see that all I get is just this portion, and I could use this just to like I said, get rid of that area and replace it with an empty section, or try to drive this information in with another piece of footage and deal with it. In this case, that's a mask operation. Now let's go back here and put it over again. And one thing to keep in mind is that if you're bringing this, if you have this kind of footage, if you're dealing with the alpha channel, one thing to keep in mind in order to get rid of that is just to use a pre-multiply. Now I'm gonna click in here and press tab, and I'm gonna call a pre-mult. Okay, that's a pre-multiplication. And once you place a pre-multiplication node in here, you can see that you're getting rid of that green, all that information that you don't want, because now we are just applying that information into the alpha and getting rid of that that portion that we don't want. Now, it's really important for you to remember that if you're gonna do any kind of operation to this footage, to the footage that you are removing the green in this case, you need to do every single one of those movements before the pre-multiplication, all right? And then you will pre-multiply that. Why is that? Well, because now let's say we can see that now we have a lot of green around this object, and we want to get rid of that. We can there's a lot of different type of ways of doing that, but one thing that I will use here, it's called the erode method. And now we have three different type of erode nodes, and in this case I have the erode fast, erode filter, and blue. Now the erode fast is just a way of getting just make this area grow. So I can make it grow like that, and I can make it shrink just like that. But if we pay attention to the actual footage here, you can see that the green is still there. I'm removing that edge, but still the green doesn't go away. I mean, it doesn't matter how much I shrink this, the green is still there. So that's not a nice option. Now if I want to increase or make it bigger, you can see how I'm increasing that value, but the green stays in there. Now I don't have a lot of information here. I just have this size parameter. I have a mask and mix, and that's it. So the delete yeah, I don't want to use that. So again, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna press spacebar, excuse me, tab, and then I'm gonna say erode one more time. Erode, and now I'm gonna use the erode filter. Now the erode filter is kind of the same thing, where I have my size, all right, and you can see how in this case now my size is giving me this black color, and if I start removing, I'm starting to eat that portion, but the green still stays there. Now what is happening here? Well, the thing is that I am applying this operation after the multiplication, so it's like not having at all my pre-multiply. So I can just get rid of this, and you can see how all the green stays there, and that's basically what is happening. So what I need you to do is every time you deal with this or you deal with transparency, well, before your pre-multiplication, apply all your color correction things, and then apply the pre-multiply, and that way you will get this kind of cleaner object. So now you can see that I am not getting anything but the white, and the green outline, it's gone. Now this green line can come back just by tweaking these parameters. You can make it grow, and you can see how we are getting kind of back our background, just like increasing this and removing that from the values of alpha that we had. So that's how we deal with this. Okay, so just let's put it that way, and we have the teapot working like that. All right, so that's one thing to deal with this. In some cases, I mean, this image is too small, but we have another type of erode, and the last one is called erode. Let's just call it again erode alpha. So the same thing, we can make it this shrink and get rid of the green. And the other thing that we have in here is that we have an option for blurriness, so we can add blurriness to this, and quality of the blur, obviously, let's make it 30, and the blurriness of this can go like that, and you know, starting to get some sort of blurriness in this case, but I am kind of making everything disappear. So like I said, I don't have a lot of resolution, so in this case I don't want to use this option, but I can use another one, which is using the erode, but just the filter without the blur, and that like I said, gives me kind of a nice edge detection in here. So I can go and increase it a little bit to 1.5 or something like that, or you can even go higher to 2 and get rid of that green. And then what I will do is use a blur node, just a regular blur node, and that will help me with the actual oh, excuse me, not a regular blur. What am I doing here? No, sorry, there's an edge blur. Okay, I'm sorry, but I was just saying a regular blur, edge blur without the actual edge kind of thing. So these will kind of detect the edge and just apply the blur to that area. So here you can see the size of that. So I can increase or decrease this value. So I give it something like just 2, for example. You have different filters that you can use: quadratic, Gaussian, triangular, or a box. So in this case, I am a fan of the Gaussian blur for a lot of stuff when dealing with blur. But in this case, you can see that it's just a way of getting rid of that specific area of our object. Now, another thing that we can keep in mind in here is that now we can just remove these guys, okay? And instead of using this background, we could apply now this other set of images where I can just get rid of the rest of the background and just keep, for example, this sphere in here. And that's you know, something that if you want to take an object from another piece of footage, and it doesn't matter if you don't have a green screen, you still can remove it and bring it into another object. And you know, you will have to deal with some of the values in here. For example, if I go to 500, now you can see it will bring more information, and I am not bringing any of the other places of the actual background. So it's kind of perfect. And now the erode and, you know, my edge blur is working perfectly fine here, and I am not getting any kind of problems with that. Now, because I have a little bit more of resolution here, you can see this image is a little bit bigger than the teapot. But you have the idea of how you can deal with these kind of situations. Really cool tool, simple to use. Here, more than anything, it's just the concept of how to use it and why you want to use it. As you know, parameters, there's nothing. It's just the two different options that you have in here, the gain and the offset, where you can deal with that. But you know, in this case, we want the offset to 0 and the gain all the way to 500. So I hope you have an understanding of what can we do with the difference tool inside Nuke, and what keying or the keying process is. And I will see you in our next class. Bye bye for now. Take care.